what's your name?
What's the channel
Oh,
link?
yo.
Oh yeah. You wanna
I'll drop y'all
yeah.
a follow
Let me
really
get you
quick.
up on the
Hey.
channel here.
Yeah,
Yep.
go on ahead.
Alright, here. I'll get you just right. Message. I'm not popping by any means, but we'll get there.
Hey, no, I respect it. I
One
respect it.
one Chinese one
Get
Chinese
that.
farm
Hey,
bot at a time.
run that grind, son. Run that grind.
Yeah, we're gonna run that grind here, and it's gonna be sensual. It's gonna be good. All right, wait. Did I frame this properly? I think we did. I
Bro,
think
where
we're
you
good.
at, Jack?
Let
I
me check
can't see you,
levels.
dog.
I'm right here, man. Can you see me? You can't see me
Yo,
because
yo,
I
yo,
can only
yo.
use my
Yo,
camera.
yo, yo. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
All right. Here we go. All right. Yo, what's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Hello, internet. My name is Jude, but I go by the humble name of Midas around these parts.
Bro's Midas on the
Uh,
internet.
I have not met these people before. They are strangers, but the vibes are beautiful, so we ball.
Complete and total strangers, bro.
Complete strangers.
Complete and total strangers,
Yeah,
actually.
I fished you out of a Discord. I
Indeed.
casted my bait. I hooked you, and it wasn't weird. It wasn't like a porno where I'm like fish hooking you. You know what I mean? It's like, and then I hooked him, and
Just
I
dropped
got
a
him
line,
in.
and I responded.
I dropped the line. There's 8 people, and he grabbed his
Currently,
first
we're
ticket.
running face scanning technology on your ass.
Yeah, we're actually mining your data, and we're using you for
Right into your face.
genealogical purposes.
Right now, there's
gonna
a
clone me.
monitor right here, and I'm literally recreating you, bro.
Yeah, it's big tech.
Bro,
They
I'm gonna
don't
start off.
talk
I'm gonna
about
start
it.
off with the first question.
Okay.
Jack, let me hit him with the first question, bro.
Okay, yeah.
First question is, what movie is your like sexual awakening? Like Megan Fox, Transformers,
Lego
like, what is it?
movie.
Like,
Oh,
what
y'all
movie
ready
were
for
you
this
like,
one?
damn?
We're ready. I think we're
The
ready.
Dark
Hold on.
Knight.
Let me grab my plastic table. The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You like it dark at night because you like chasing women down alleys. That's why.
Explain.
All right. So, for those
Fucking
of you
running 'em down,
uninitiated,
buddy.
which is literally everybody,
Pull 'em
because
home.
I don't think anybody watching knows who I am. I had my like awakening over the summer after I went through a really bad breakup, and I was kind of, they always talk about how you need to lose yourself to find yourself, and so I was in the process of like essentially fundamentally rebuilding my identity, kind of discovering who I was, and in the process of sort of molding an identity for myself that wasn't based on anyone else. I was building an identity purely based on me for me. And I was watching The Dark Knight and I realized I was focused far too intently on Christian Bale. I was like,
Christian
huh,
Bale. Okay.
huh.
Damn. Oh
Is
shit.
Christian Bale? He's what? He's tight. He's ripped.
He's in that movie. He is an absolute just stack.
I like that man
Like
in some
actually
denim. Some denim
ripped.
with like a big gun or something.
I'm just a huge fan of him.
In
Like I think
American
he's a great
Psycho,
actor.
though, that I mean,
Yes.
some yeah.
Peak
That
physique.
is
Okay.
comparable to. That's another fantastic movie.
So you found yourself. You found your identity. And what'd you do?
Yes.
Did you act on it? You went what? To an app? To a website?
No, nothing of that sort. I just kind of so.
Good job.
I don't know what the kids do
What'd you
these
act?
days. I don't fucking know, man.
Hey, the kids be getting up to some devious shit on the internet now. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Dude.
yeah. Devious,
But
dirty stuff.
no, it's just kind of been. I mean, I preach it to everybody. The process of figuring out who you are is a long journey. It's arduous. It's tiring, but it's one of the greatest things you can do for yourself. And I think kind of stumbling across my identity purely by accident, dare I say, but also figuring out who I am as a person has been one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, how'd you feel before that? Like what were you doing that you do differently now? Like what? Like were you
I
just?
think one of the biggest things that I'll pitch it as is in my life, I've always kind of been. Man, this is crazy. Internet podcast, 5 minutes deep, and I'm already given the fucking entire life
where
story.
were you born? What's your social? I mean,
My
send me
credit
your
card
seed in
number,
the mail
three
or
numbers on the
something.
back.
Yeah, 3 numbers on the
Yeah,
back,
so
please. Yeah.
one of the things that I always found, at least for me, that was one of the, I guess, less meaningful things that I did, but was a very bad habit that I had sort of picked up, is that a really, really big, um, I was a really big people pleaser for a long time.
Mm.
So a lot of the time, depending on who it was that I was around, I would essentially be different versions of myself. And it got really tiring, having to sort of maintain appearances depending on who I was with.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing that I've been doing differently is genuinely and wholeheartedly, I've just stopped giving a fuck about what other people think. I won't say that I've stopped considering others when I think about what I do, but I've stopped thinking about others in relation to myself, if that makes sense. Like, I don't consider how people will see me, how people's opinions of me will change when I do something now. I just do it because I want to do it. I do things because I enjoy them. And if people fuck with it, they fuck with it. If they don't, they don't.
Dude, you and Otto
Just
are
doing
gonna be the
things.
bestest of buddies. Bro's bullshit maxing on the Snap story. You should see this man. He's over here busting it down.
Bullshit.
He's bullshit maxing
Well,
on
let
the
me.
Snap
All
story.
right.
He's
So a little
crazy.
bit of. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Otto.
I was gonna
Bullshit
ask you,
maxing
what
on the
was one
Snap story
moment
is crazy.
where it is crazy. I mean, people come up to me and I haven't seen them in years, and they're like, "I love your Snap story." And I'm like, "God, that's so fucking embarrassing." But it's one of those things where it's like, dude, you're literally just having fun. I literally don't care. It's 4 in the
Right.
morning. I don't care if anyone's. I don't care if anyone reads it. It's just funny as fuck. It's genuinely just hilarious.
Exactly.
So
It's
I love
just it's
doing
off
that.
the dome, and you're like, why not?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
Literally
his
does not
fucking
matter. Does
Snapchat
not
story.
change anything in the world. That's most of our lives, though.
Exactly.
Bro just posts himself like
I
meowing.
was gonna ask
in
you,
like a
what
tank
was one
top.
moment where you like everything changed to that mindset? Like, what was one foundational thing that happened? You said you had a breakup, but like, was there anything
Yeah.
before that? Because you said you had all these like masks and all these faces. What was like the switch that flipped for you? Change, I guess.
So it
Or was
was
it like
actually
slowly?
it was sort of a gradual thing. As the relationship that I was in went on, I started to slowly kind of become more aware of it, if that makes sense. Like I began to comprehend, okay, I'm not living the most authentically. I'm doing things. It was almost like life felt like a stage performance. I felt like I had to keep up different appearances for different people, and I realized how much it was draining me and how bad it was for me. And so I think after that breakup happened, that was the sort of like the snap in my head of like, oh, something needs to change. You know what I mean? Like, I can't keep going about interpersonal relationships like this. It's not good for me. Things need to kind of take a different path. And so I think the process of actually like getting to that state of mind, it was a lot longer. It took a lot more effort. But that was kind of like the wake up call. Was that relationship ending and then the sort of like because every time, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, your family. Anytime you lose someone you care deeply about in your life, the automatic first sort of response from the brain is to reminisce, to ruminate, to look in retrospective, like lenses. And so I looked through a lot of the memories that I had, and then that sort of pushed me along to look at other relationships, like friends that I had, other bonds. And I realized, whoa, I've been not only almost having to perform for the past 2 years, but I've also been lying to myself because at the time when I was in that relationship, I was coming out of my shell in a lot of ways in terms of doing things that I generally wouldn't have found myself or wouldn't have thought I would find myself doing. And so I sort of chalked it up to that being me living authentically, me doing, me being my true self or whatever it was. All it really was, if I'm going to be completely honest, was just a very strong fear of abandonment kicking in and essentially me trying to like personality match so that I wouldn't get like left behind, if that makes sense. And
You
so I kind
had
of
to tap into the bullshit maxing a little
masking.
bit.
yeah, I mean mirroring, yeah. That's the word I was looking for. I have a fucking psychology degree. I shouldn't be forgetting these things. But yeah.
Ask, bro. You sound like a psychologist. I talk to so many psychologists. I love
Yeah.
psychology, and just like listening to you talk, like it's literally like I'm just like this guy's a psychologist. I was about to ask you
Yeah.
that next. Like,
So
are you a psych major?
I'll give you the rundown. So I this is what always like I tell people this. So I'll actually
Freudian rundown.
I was gonna say I'll give you the whole life story and everything. I'll give you the quick. So this is my litmus test because I don't know you. You see me, you look at me, you hear how I talk. How old would you pit like what age would you pin me as?
26.
23.
Those are generous.
What are you, 48?
30.
No.
57.
I'm 19.
112. You're not fucking 19.
Oh.
I am
Damn.
19
Show me
with
your
a college
ID.
degree.
Show me your identification, your government ID.
I believe it.
I'm not gonna dox it on stream, but I can confirm that I was born on November 24th, 2005.
That's fucking wild. Jesus
So
Christ.
that's the big like college degree at 19.
What kind of water
and then,
you drink?
So
Fucking
me?
A. Yeah, what kind of water you drink?
I drink I drink that crazy nuts super water. Trust.
That crazy nuts super water, super tea water. Super
No,
water.
actually the key to all of this is to just drink unfiltered water out of the hose at age 4.
Hell yeah, man. That's
that'll
what I'm
do
saying.
everything for you.
A lot of minerals.
But I'm
and
actually
rust.
yeah, rust and dirt.
Yeah, rust, dirt, minerals.
I'm
Fucking
actually, funnily enough, I'm going back to college next semester to finish. So in the process of getting my psychology degree, I also got half a philosophy degree completely on accident. So I'm going back to finish that out before I go to grad school for psych.
Hell yeah, man.
But that's the sort of
awesome.
general
Who's your favorite
background for me.
philosopher?
Ooh, there was a lot of. So the first class I took
What are
in
your
college.
top 3 that you would say that change up for you?
I think the most, if we're gonna talk like
philosophy.
yeah, so it's sort of like I have a rotating list almost of like philosophers that I find really interesting. So I took the first class I took in college was existentialism, and to perspectivize that class, I didn't realize this until after I'd finished that class. My professor for that class had a blue link on Wikipedia, like multiple published books about philosophy. She was insane. And so while she's not, like one of those conventional names that you get on the list, everybody looks, you get your Kierkegaards, your Nietzsche's, your Dostoevsky's, names like that. I'd honestly probably put her on that list because she is the person that made me fall in love with philosophy the way that I did. So shoutouts to Professor Baikova. You were awesome.
Hey.
When it comes to actual philosophies,
Professor Baikova. Go.
Hey, everybody run her down on Wikipedia.
I think when it comes to the more like conventionally like recognized names, I think that one of the big things that I've always held a very strong interest in is not necessarily Nietzsche's actual philosophies, but more so how grossly misinterpreted his work is. Because obviously, Friedrich Nietzsche is viewed as the father of nihilism, so to speak. And everybody always has this, like, doom and gloom connotation when nihilism gets brought up, and it's the idea that, like, oh, nothing matters, like, yada yada. But the whole idea behind his work is that life is beautiful because nothing matters. You can do whatever the fuck you want, and there are no realistic repercussions to it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And then,
But what if you go and
Go ahead.
you're going on a fentanyl bender, right? Then you're fucked. You're on a big fatty bender.
Right.
You're straight
Whole
leaning.
library.
You're straight leaning. You're by the bus. You forgot your
My
bus
whole
pass.
library is all Nietzsche, by the way.
Bros Nietzsche.
is that, what was that?
Primitive.
Das
I
Book Zarathustra?
barely
Good
scratched
book.
the surface.
That book is actually the one that, like, yeah, that book is the one that sort of, like, snapped the,
Life changer.
or, like, yeah, that's the one that really got me. And then, I'm trying to remember who all we talked about in that class.
Yeah.
One of the other ones that I thought
It
was,
is the one.
one of the other ones that I thought was really interesting that we talked about, maybe, I wouldn't say, like, the philosophy itself was shocking, but this was one that, at least for me, made me like, it was the one that was able to sort of flip my brain and make me think in a different way. Was when we first talked about Martin Heidegger and his concept of Dasein, or being, and how it's almost viewed as like a physical entity of sorts, and how being is almost an alive thing in the universe. And I remember, like, we read through Being and Time and had to do a whole paper on it, and I'm telling you, I stared at my laptop and drooled on myself for like 3 hours trying to figure out how the fuck to write about it. But I don't know, I mean, I think, like, everything philosophy that I've ever done has been fascinating to me. Like, it's one of those subjects I genuinely could go on forever, because I find all of it, like, truly fascinating. And then especially when you look in the sub facets of it, neurophilosophy and neuroethics are two really, really interesting fields, at least to me. I think the sort of idea and, like, the intersection between philosophy, psychology, the ethical, like, structure of the way that those two things intersect, the sort of ethical repercussions of AI as, like, a modern topic, I think those are all really, really cool things.
Yeah. Going back to Dasein real quick.
Yes.
I actually wrote a string quartet about Dasein. I was reading Being in Time last fall.
Oh shit!
I had the same experience. I was reading it, and it was like, you know how when you read philosophy, like, it changes your brain chemistry. Like, when you're reading it, you feel like your experience of life is, like, different in some kind of way.
It doesn't make sense until it does, and then when it does, everything feels different.
Yeah. It's just weird.
That's the magic of philosophy to me. Like, that's why I fell in love with it, and that's
Yeah,
that's why I'm going back to get a degree in it.
It's
Like,
almost a big thing.
Yeah. No, it truly is just I think that whole, and just, like, the way that philosophy and psychology play together is just so cool. I had a class actually that I took about, like, it was called Philosophy of Psychology, but it was more like Philosophy of Mind. And that, excuse me, oh god, the Taco Bell's fighting back. That was another one of those classes where it's like, you look at just, like, the interplay between the two subjects and the way that things happen. It was so cool. Just the idea of, like, I think the fundamental, the way that class started, day one, the question that got asked is, are the brain and the mind the same thing? And then the whole curriculum just kind of expanded upon that topic. And I think just kind of viewing that sort of question, going through all the different angles you could look at it, all the crazy batshit thought experiments and hypotheticals, was just so much fun.
Yeah. Going back, I know you mentioned it. Everyone on the internet talks about it. Like, how do you view, like, how do you philosophize that, and what are your opinions on that?
Say that again. Sorry. Like, what specifically that you're referencing?
How do you think? How do you view it interacting with humanness? Like, where do you see AI going? Like, when I generally and broadly say AI, think of, and how do you see that progressing in, like, the cultural zeitgeist for the next 5 to 10 years, whatever, you know?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that I think it can be looked at. I think the biggest, again, obviously, one of my primary concerns with it, I know I mentioned, the idea of ethical usage of AI, things like that, what constitutes ethical AI usage. One of my biggest concerns actually doesn't lie within the ethics or any of the philosophy standpoint of it. What I think my biggest concern when it comes to AI usage lies in is the general cluelessness of the mass populace of the environmental impacts that AI usage has. I feel like it's become so commonplace for people to lean on ChatGPT for things that are so easily Googleable, not realizing what a colossal environmental impact doing something like that has, because a Google search, right? Obviously, anything that we do in this world has some sort of impact, whether it's a carbon footprint, whether it's, anything that it could be, because there are so many different examples that I could harp on. But going to ChatGPT for something that's Googleable,
conversation like this,
it requires so much water to cool off servers. It requires so much deforestation to provide the energy that is needed to power all of the servers and stuff. I'm being very vague with the way I'm referencing it.
I worked for an energy company for the last 2 years, and we actually did a lot of pipe for Google and TSM, Taiwanese chip manufacturers.
Yeah.
And I think there's a misconception that people tend to believe that it uses a lot of water, but what is actually, happening is it's a recycled single connection loop. So a lot of this water is fully recycled. It isn't waste. It isn't like, your piss going down the toilet, whatever. It's actually continuously recycled. Where you actually have waste is condensation and evaporation, which happens, it'll condense through the pipes. But then what they have is they have acclimated, spheres where it's like, that doesn't happen. It used to condense through pipes, and then they insulate it so it doesn't, and they have wicking insulators, so all this material doesn't even like get out, and it's all encased in these huge complexes, and they just keep circulating the water. In fact, a lot of these, we did a couple stainless jobs, and they actually use glycol, which is pretty much like heavy water. So it's like
I was actually not aware of that. I think that's
it's like sugar syrup. So I think I have seen that multiple times, and that's one of those things that was put on the internet, and is circulated multiple times. It's gonna waste water, and of course it does use energy, and it uses a lot of energy. But I think also in the United States, like, we have gone away from a lot of very good sources of producing energy. And we actually hold our country to a deficit of only 15% of excess in storage. So, like, you kind of like put yourself in this bind of having additional like resources to run all this shit. So I think that's actually one of the scariest things about running these supercomputers and having we're the data mecca of the world in terms of we are like the franchisees of internet. Google. You have all these, Linux, Windows, all these people making the chips to run these servers, to run Google. Like, obviously it all kind of circles back to Google, but I think that's something that, is slept on, is actually understanding like how much energy it takes, which you're right about. It's a lot. Like, it is pretty big. And one of the things that's really bad is people like get away from the best version of energy, and they just like want to go and
hamster wheel.
Push something
I've
out.
Seen it.
They
you go into
it.
Petco and
yeah, you go into Petco.
I was in a Petco a while ago. It 1,500 hamsters powering the fish tanks, and I thought that was just beautiful.
And then it was just, and then they had had like a bunch of like Italian immigrants in the basement, right? And they were just like shoveling coal, and that's actually what's going on. That's what you actually don't see.
It's right around
There's a bunch of Italian
bro,
immigrants in the basement. Yep. And
I think the other thing, so I actually was not aware of all that on the like recycled water and stuff. That actually is really good to hear of and like good to know about. I think one of the other things that I will comment on when it comes to the sort of the prevalence of AI, especially when it comes to how it's covered in the news, is I feel like it's kind of, I'm trying to think of a way to word this that doesn't make it sound like I'm trying to know everything. It feels like it's one of those buzzworded things, the same way that cryptocurrency was a couple years ago, where it's like, it feels like a lot of things just get lumped under that general umbrella. And I feel like as a result of, I won't necessarily call it misclassification, but just the oversaturation of the term AI and it being pushed everywhere and you hearing about it all the time, I feel like that does lead to a lot of unintentional sort of fear-mongering almost, because a lot of people will misassociate AI, what it does, what it's capable of, and what it could turn into. And I think that leads a lot of people down the wrong sort of rabbit hole almost.
Yeah, I think it's also subjective.
It's very possible.
Subjective, because there's some guy, out in a shack in the middle of Idaho right now who doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about. Doesn't know shit about AI. Literally, he's just trying to go to the Kroger to pick up a pack of Marlboro Reds. You know what I mean? And you go drink a fucking fifth of Beam. He doesn't give a shit about AI. So it's like, I feel like, as we're like Gen Z, we're in the age of whatever. We were talking yesterday, me and Otto here, and we were saying, like, when he started college, there wasn't ChatGPT was brand fucking new, brand new.
Right.
Like nobody figured out how to use it on tests. Nobody understood how to cheat with it yet. And then within 6 months, everyone's flipping papers. Everyone looks like a scholar. They're a estudiante way.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, everybody can get their hands on it. But I feel like it's generationally like binded to us and what we know. Because like, I mean, I talk to my dad's friends.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you know about this ChatGPT? Yeah, he's got the $9.99 a month, man. He's really killing it on this. And I'm like, I bet you're barely even harnessing it. So it's like, I feel like it is very subjective whether you can lump AI together, whatever conversation that it's actually like pinned towards. And like, I don't know, maybe your feed can just be like very saturated with that shit. But then again, there's still dudes like carrying stones around North Korea right now making wood powered vehicles. Like, I think it'll kind of just like, it has like a trickle down effect to the people that are actually attracted to it.
Definitely. And I mean, if we're looking at it from that sort of like angle, I would preface by saying generally, I am pretty heavily along the viewpoint of being what most people would classify as anti-AI. But there are absolutely times and places for it. There are ways that it can be used that absolutely will be productive, but especially, I think the standout example and despite it being, I would argue, probably one of the most overused examples of where people take issue with AI, I think it's overused for a reason. And the whole sphere of like AI art, the way that AI language models are trained and how a lot of that information gets taken in is where I start to take issue with it. Because now, on the flip side, I think a lot of people who use anything technology related in this generation, myself included, 9 times out of 10 don't fully read the terms and conditions of what they're actually like using. They don't really know what they're
like
signing up for.
million out of a billion. Nobody reads that shit.
And so like a lot of people, especially in modern times, again, source, as someone who doesn't read the terms and conditions, I can't actually confirm this or not, but I feel like it's probably happened at least once.
Guilty.
It's probably happened at least once where there's terms and conditions that say that anything that you use can be, or like anything that you upload, anything that you sort of, any material that you include can be used for training AI models. And like, I hate that almost feels like it's snuck in most of the time, because I'm like, if I at least am aware of it, I can either consciously...
What's the downfall of AI?
Oh god. What's the downfall of AI? I think
like what's the thing, like what's gonna be the most important thing that is keeping you in the argument of this is not good? Because obviously like art's good, but like we are privileged to enjoy art, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what about the people who kind of just have to like, I seen a guy who runs a business where he sells AI voice callers for like $4,000. And it's literally like taking somebody's $40,000 job, and it just like, oh, whatever thing. It's like, oh, my house is on fire, and the person's, or my house was on fire. Oh, what part of the house is on fire? Oh, the roof. Okay, we'll send a roofer over. Blah 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 blah. And they sell these agents and whatnot, and so like you have those things being eliminated from people and kind of like grabbed from their grasp. And honestly, the people that would be in that entry level position probably don't even realize that is what is coming after the job. Obviously, you can lump in AI, but like once you actually quantify and you actually understand like the dynamic of AI, what it can actually do, I mean, like most of the people won't realize they're getting fucked. So it's like, what's your like?
So my sort of like, I think you kind of nailed it. Like my biggest, I think, or one of the biggest things that I take issue with is the human cost of using AI, because it does fundamentally remove a lot of relative, like, I'm trying to think of a way to word this. It feels like a lot of the places where it does remove human input are also some of the more unnecessary areas, if that makes sense. So like me being, and again, so like this is the psychology in me being a people first type of person. At the risk of sounding like I'm spitting straight bullshit on the internet,
we do it every day.
One of the big examples that I think of is how, as time is going on,
Yeah, that's why they made it, actually, is to say obscure ideas that can be based with any facts, and then you say, whatever, just close your phone.
Yeah, I think one of the big areas that I'll reference is when you think about so look at like McDonald's now, right? You go into a McDonald's in hell, even when I was younger, you go to a McDonald's 2010.
They have McDonald's in hell?
You walk in and there's somebody behind the counter that you actually physically speak to that takes your order. There's a level of human to human dynamic in the process of ordering your food. There's a level of interpersonal connection that happens because, say time goes on, you frequent that restaurant, you go to that McDonald's a lot. You start to build a relationship with the person behind the counter. Say you're like me, I used to go with my grandma when we'd go out to eat. And she was also she was a people person. She loved meeting people, hearing their stories. So she would always be very, paramount about checking it, or maybe not checking in, but like at least, having some sort of banter with the person behind the counter. You walk into a McDonald's nowadays, there's 2 double-sided screens in the lobby. You don't speak to anybody. You type in what you want, and they make your order in the back. It completely removes the human-to-human aspect, with the exception of when they call your number for you to get your food. And by that point, the workers behind the counter are so focused on just doing their job, and they're, oftentimes pretty tired, pretty overworked and underpaid. So they're frustrated. They can't be bothered to have a conversation with you. And because of the schedule, not necessarily like hours, but the routine that they're working on, they don't really have the time to do that anyway. And I feel like this is also where I go down the crazy, utopian internet stranger rabbit hole. It's not, because
the screens
it's
aren't
not the most AI, but I was gonna say
we know what those are.
Kind of
that's a big iPad.
I was gonna use it as I was gonna turn it into a segue of how as I'm getting older, I feel, and I say getting older at the ripe age of 19, I'm starting to become more and more, maybe not
reminiscent,
vexed or irked, but it's more like I'm just starting to really appreciate the conveniences of technology less and less, and I feel like AI is kind of what kickstarted that in me. I think it's beautiful what we have and what we're able to do with technology. Hell, like what we're doing right now is one of, I think, the cool things that we are afforded with the advancement of technology. The fact that a stranger can hop into a voice call with someone who could potentially be across the damn world. Yeah. And start picking my brain over, I think it's literally anything.
That's also hard when you're young, because, there's a lot of guys out there, like, I mean, the dude I was mentioning before, talking about his ChatGPT, whatever, and I can tell he barely knows how to use it. I'm like, you're touching the tip of the iceberg. It's like, a guy like that, he's glad he's got sonar on his fishing boat, because he fucking sucks at fishing. So he's hyped for that. Right. So, like, I mean, for us, it's like, we've only ever known it, so it's easy to get away with it and feel like we're doing something traditional.
Yeah.
But, like, the people that actually, I feel, had the traditional route, I mean, what do they feel? You know what I mean? I'm curious about that. Like, what do they give a shit about? Because, I mean, they're probably going to be dead in, like, 25 years anyways. Like, people, like, 50 years old, you know what I mean? Made all their millions. They literally bought, like, a park and sold it for, like, $3 million. You're like, oh, sick. Goddamn.
Yeah. Go ahead with a question.
All of that, like, physical economy is dead. And going back to what you were saying, where you hate using the buzzword AI because it is so prevalent in the 24-hour news cycle. AI this, AI that. Something really interesting that Sam Altman said, the head of OpenAI, is he said it's going to be hard to distinguish AI and what systems are holding up AI. And even like you said, it's such a privilege to be talking with you right now. But I'm sure right now there are servers that are being maintained by some kind of AI. So really, there is no separation, and it is the next industrial revolution. It is the third industrial revolution, socially, culturally, everywhere we see it. So I don't think, going back to Jack's question too, where he said, where do you see this going? Where's the downfall? There is no downfall for AI. If there's a downfall of AI, there's a downfall of humans with it.
I think it's the downfall of humans.
Artificial. We are the human.
Yeah, there is a personal downfall, as I was sort of referring to, is that's like my sort of criteria with it, where I sort of draw my lines. But I think it has become one of those things where it has so quickly, it has so quickly and rapidly become so strongly integrated into our day to day that if it were to collapse, because one of the other, again, this is where I start to get all, dare I go tinfoil hat, right? But if you look at even me, right? So this is part of, and this is sort of where I'm looping back, and this is focusing less on AI, but I'll get to that. But it's more of a like technology as a whole thing. If you look at me, right? I was born in the wonderful year of 2005. So take 5-year-old me, right? Or we'll push it a little bit more. We'll go 10 years old, 2015, right? I still have like a Wii at home.
Chief Keef is out. Chief Keef is hot right now. Chief Keef is fucking popping. Fetty Wap is
Chief
just
Keef
spazzing.
is pumping, and we are one year away from
Osiris is everywhere.
Peak rap cipher.
Yeah, Osiris is fucking Plastic Chains, dude, all the good shit.
But you're looking at like, we'll talk about the fundamental value of entertainment, right? You look at TV, things like Netflix. When I'm younger, when I'm a kid, the age that a lot of the kids who are being fundamentally exposed to technology at an early age are. When I'm that age, we have cable TV, we'll call it. You get what's on. You can watch what's on at the moment. Sometimes you can watch some stuff on demand. Sometimes you can record shows. But for the most part, you get to watch what's on when it's on. When it comes to things like music, YouTube exists, Spotify exists, things like that at this point, but they aren't anywhere near as expansive as they are yet. So I mostly rely on, and also at this point, also worth adding, I don't have a phone, so I'm mostly reliant on either the times that I'm with my parents or things like CDs to listen to music. When it comes to movies, you can go to the theater, catch something with your friends. Sometimes, if you're like that, you've got Netflix, you can watch a couple movies at home. I'm in the transitory period because if you look at, call like millennials, they have...
I was going full Heidegger.
Oh yeah, I'm going crazy on them.
I think you're just unplugging from the system and you're just going...
So,
full Heidegger.
I've got all that. And then if you look at like the generation...
That's what I romanticize, to be honest.
The generation before me, who has flip phones, they don't have access to, streaming services at all yet. Netflix barely exists in its infancy for them. They don't have like streaming services at all, so they don't have music either. It's all very, you get what you get when you get it. And then you look at the sudden shift between Gen Z and Gen Alpha. These kids were born in the peak era of the technological sort of expansion for things like that. So you have kids who at, age 7, 8, 9, 10 are exposed to the ability to have one iPad in their hands that has Spotify on it, so they can listen to any song they want on demand whenever they want to. You've got YouTube on it, so you've got billions of hours of content about everything on the internet. You've got Netflix, so you can watch, or I'll say like a combination of Netflix, Hulu, like streaming services for TV and movies. You can watch whatever you want, whenever you want to. There is fundamentally no limit to the ability to just stimulate the brain and to watch something, to listen to something, to have some sort of entertainment value. I feel like we, as a species, are losing the ability to be bored. And that doesn't sound like a bad thing when you think about it at first, but when you consider that a lot of the most creative things that we have come from episodes of boredom. Think about, like, hell, Albert Einstein used to solve problems by daydreaming. And I think that that is a skill that we as people are fundamentally losing the ability to do. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I walk around my house with my headphones on all the time. I'm listening to music constantly. And sometimes, it's so easy when we get bored nowadays to grab the remote to the smart TV hanging on our wall and watch YouTube on the TV that we have. Like, the ease of access to anything is honestly mind-blowing. And I'm not trying to say this like, oh, like, Spotify sucks, music streaming sucks. I think it's an absolute gift that we do have access to almost everything ever released when it comes to music at a moment's notice. But I also think that there is a certain extent to which that becomes too much. And the fact that we have instant access to almost any sort of mental stimulation leads to chronic overstimulation of the brain. That leads to crazy mental fatigue. It leads to It leads to a lot of things. And I think, it's no coincidence. This is the psychology in me speaking again. It's no coincidence that we've gotten to a point where maybe not necessarily diagnosed ADHD all the time, but just a chronic inability for younger kids to focus and pay attention is widespread at rates that honestly, even in my generation, were not as tangible. And I think that that's sort of, being further perpetuated by AI, because now you get to a point where, oh, you have access to the entire creative library of music anywhere on your fingertips. There's something out there that you want to listen to that doesn't exist. Just go plug your thoughts into something like Suno or one of those generative AI algorithms that can make a song for you. And suddenly now, not only do you have the ability to indulge yourself in any sort of piece of creative, media that already exists, you also have the ability to indulge yourself in any sort of creative media that doesn't exist because it has become effortless to make it. And I think that that will strongly contribute to almost the, dare I hazard so far as to say, it might lead to the ability to think critically and think at all slowly disappearing over time. Because when no thought has to go into creating something, it becomes a dormant skill. When you don't have to freely think about something, and I think that's, to some degree already becoming visible in schools, in academia, when kids have become so crutched rather, sorry, English is hard. Kids crutch on AI so hard that when they have to take in-person physical tests and what they're doing is monitored, their performance is tanked because there's no need to think about things. There's no need to read the material because you plug it into an AI for the grade and it's done in 5 minutes. And everything is done for convenience. So you get to a point where you have to actually sit down, put time in, invest effort into teaching yourself something, learning something. It's a skill that we're losing. The ability to just sit down and do something purposeful for the sake of doing it.
I think it's just natural selection. I think that the people that actually desire to get the information will achieve more, and they'll be significantly more likely to succeed in whatever they think.
I disagree with that entirely.
What, that like there's going to be people that actually want to
the reason I would say that I disagree with it ethically is because I was talking to my buddy today about this, and you can't expect children to have the knowledge to not eat the pizza on the table. If you have pizza and you have broccoli, if you put a kid in a room, they're just gonna go eat the pizza. And so if you hold this cultural foundation all around that, we should be making our own decisions as hyper individuals. Now I was going to ask you a question, like, do you view it as a individualism problem, or is there, no ends to it? Should we keep diving into this, like, almost like post neoliberal, whatever that even fucking means, just liberalism, the doctrine of liberalism, all right?
Yeah.
The post neoliberal, just individualism. Should we keep to the bottom of that pit? Should we keep reaching our hands in the sludge and see how free can it get?
This is a topic that I feel like I can speak on because I actually, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I got into, this was the fundamental basis of a debate that I had that wound up ending in me and someone that I deemed my best friend for 8 years not being on speaking terms anymore. Because my fundamental argument, I have always been a person of for the collective. Do things for the betterment of the people. Do things for the people around you, because we as humans are social creatures. We don't exist without each other. We would not have made it through ice ages. We wouldn't have made it through dark ages, middle ages, plagues without each other. We sure were a lot more tribal at certain points. There was a lot more, individualism in the groups, but those groups still existed and those groups still banded together, and we made it to where we are because of people. And we have gotten to a point now where, especially in the United States, we very, very aggressively propagate individualism. And I think that individualism is the death of collectivism, which, would make sense the way that it's said, but I feel like the longer we spend doing things for the sake of the individual, we eventually lose the ability to do things in the interest of the collective. And when we lose the ability to do things in the interest of the collective, we lose the ability to function as a cohesive society, because we are such a social species. People don't realize that we require each other to live. Like, even down to a biological standpoint. Like, you have a lower life expectancy if you don't have meaningful connections in your life. The whole thing about needing, like, however many hugs it is a day as, like, a beneficial survival mechanic, whether or not that's true, different question. But, I mean, it exemplifies what we are very well. We are people who rely on other people. And so as this whole wave of individualism is propagated, and as the lens shifts towards individual hyper success, and we live in a society where individual success is the determiner for how valuable you are to a society, I feel that is one of the most detrimental things that we have going for us, because it's such a hyperfixation on the individual in a world where we need the collective.
Super interesting too that you mentioned that, and honestly, like, it's fascinating because we are hyper like, we rely on all of these things as a species, but it's super interesting because then we rely on being an individual within a social media platform that then is the parasocial communication we have. So we're getting that gratification from another place, but in its form, it is social interaction. Like, we could say right now, I have just as much of a intellectual social interaction as you could get, just me talking to you.
Yeah.
But it seems like there seems to be some kind of wall or barrier in between, and I think that really comes down to like the corporate side of it, really, where it's like there is this inherent competition. When you're on TikTok, it's like, well, this person got more views than you, so their inherent value is higher. Whereas in this conversation, none of us can win. None of us can walk away being the winner or the best at any of this, so it doesn't really matter. But there's still like a weird socialization within the whole plane social.
That is a fascinating point to make, because I feel like I've actually, now that you mention that and I think about it, I have definitely inadvertently fallen victim to that exact mindset more times than I can count. And I think that is, it's a really interesting topic. It's a really interesting idea when you consider that, like, there is always that inherent need as an individual to be better, or at least as it's propagated by, the individualistic culture that we live in, at least in this country. There is always an inherent competition to be had. There's always a, like, oh, I need to be doing better. I feel like we've sort of pushed that line just further and further and further, where the concept of success, or the concept of even just being stable and being, like, average, has become so hyperinflated that it's almost unattainable for most people. Because we constantly strive. I think the thing is, like, we constantly compare ourselves to other people for a metric of success, and it's a figure that has become so bloated that we even just deem our borderline, like, average on metrics that should never be as high as they are, because they've gotten they've crept just slowly further and further up. I think that I also, again, like, to your point, I think that a lot of that does get propagated by the sort of competition and the competitive nature of social media, and the need that we feel to be better than other people, to deem ourselves successful. I feel like to satisfy that high, it's kind of like the whole, it's not that dissimilar from what I was mentioning earlier about, like, always having some sort of, like, brain stimulation, and the idea that you can always push further and further, looking for more things that can sort of give you the dopamine that your brain craves. Similarly to that, no matter what standards you have, no matter what you've achieved as a person, no matter what metrics you have to your name, you can always find someone who's doing better than you. And I feel like that leads us to sort of a spot where the idea of being well off almost becomes a myth, because you're only doing well off if you're better than other people, but there's always people who are doing better than you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really interesting about that whole concept in the United States, and going all the way back to Nietzsche and back to the godless society and the nihilism, is we don't have true gods, and we have forms of it's almost like a what is it? Not polyamorous,
polytheism,
monogamous, multiple gods.
Polytheism.
It's like polytheism.
Yeah.
I knew tip of my tongue. It's like polytheism, but with corporate America, where you have like certain archetypes and characters that everyone's trying to be. I want to be like this person, but it's also bought and sold to you. So we don't necessarily believe in a true God. We don't have another otherness. But we have the corporatization of every single thing in life. Like I watch a Ford commercial, and the highest attainment in life, the highest seed I can do is owning this Ford truck, and then everyone else can fuck off after that, and I don't really care. And that kind of leaves this like blankness to everything, where there is no cultural meaning, there is no communal meaning, and most times, my buddy Joe, he was a devout Christian. He knew many parts of the Bible up and down, could quote everything. We always talk to Christians, and we ask them whenever you see someone bearing the cross to say, what's your favorite Bible quote? And most people who bear the cross can't name anything. And I find it like 9 times out of 10. And I'm not even exaggerating. It's every other person on the street wearing this is just like, they don't know anything. So we really live in this godless society that pushes to the highest point. But I think the final form that you said, like the average is going up. I wouldn't argue that the average is going up for most people to live a normal life. It's just that the actual forms that exist have been put so distinctly in front of them. Like someone wants to be just like Andrew Tate. You have a 13-year-old boy where the peak of his life, the average is that, you know? And it goes across the board.
I think saying it that way and saying like the average itself is going up might not have been the best way to word it. I think a better way to put it is that the perceived average is going up. It's less of like the actual like what you need to be well off in life has changed, because at the end of the day, all you really need to be well off in life is food, water, shelter. You're good. If you've got those 3 things, you are alive.
It's a culture.
I would say, food, water, shelter, and connection. Because again, I think that that's another thing, sort of as you were touching on, is like the idea of like, oh, I get this truck and then everybody else can fuck off. I feel like it becomes, again, it comes back to that idea of community and lack of connection being present in society nowadays. And it's, people get so fixated on their own individual accomplishments and the things that they want for themselves, and they're always doing things with this hollow sort of, they're doing things with a shell of meaning behind them. They're not doing things because they're meaningful. People aren't doing things because they want to do them. I feel like 9 times out of 10, the only reason people do things anymore is for the vanity of it. To say that they do it and to tell other people that they do it. People do things because they want to preserve appearances for themselves, because they want to present a certain way. They want to be seen a certain way by certain groups of people. And that's sort of a thought that came to my mind, like you had mentioned with the idea of like, you ask people quotes. I don't
do them 6 times a day.
The idea of like,
I don't
you
do them
asking
6
people
times
for
a
quotes.
day to tell people, bro. I do it
for the love of the game.
It's the love of the game. It's pure enjoyment of the craft.
Oh, it's interesting to me because I see Christians, and it's at the bars too. I'm not asking people. I'm not asking people in a church. I'm not asking people in a class. I'm out. I get off of work. It's in the city. It's late at night. Alleyways, drunk people, smoking cigarettes, and it's like around the cross. I'm like, this is so ironic that this person is dressed the way they are, doing what they do, and you're like, can you at least name a Bible quote? Because there's honestly funny ones too. There's great Bible quotes that just they contradict themselves. It's hilarious. It's a fun game to play. And oftentimes they're just like, yeah, I don't know anything. I just like the way it looks. And I'm like, it's aesthetics.
And again, that's sort
culture,
of my point of like living for the vanity rather than the actual purpose behind things. I feel like, one of the most enriching things that I've done as of recently, it wasn't even, it wasn't a crazy thing. All I did, right, is I took a month where I deactivated my main Instagram.
Do not promote Manscaped right here.
No, I took a month.
The most liberating thing was getting this
shaving my balls.
New ball sauce.
Yeah, not sponsored.
With my new goober ball sauce.
Yeah, my new goober ball fucking jacuzzi sauce. Hell yeah.
The Uber Ball Cream 6000.
The K-pot for your nuts.
My life is better.
Yeah, stop promoting the K-pot.
What I was getting at is I took a month where I deactivated my main Instagram. And I tried to focus as much as I could on just the experiences I was having, the things that I was doing in life. And I noticed that I took so much more joy in the most menial of things that I could have been doing. Like my primary example that I'll give is one of the things that I used to do, or that I got into right as the summer started, was photography. And so I used to love going out with my friends, taking pictures, but it would always be, how can I take a picture that will be the most appealing for my social media?
Yeah,
When I
strike a
deactivated my
pose.
Instagram, I went out and I would take pictures with my friends, and it became so much less about how can I find a postable shot, and it turned into how can I actually artistically express myself? How can I do something for the sake of embodying my creative spirit in it? How can I make something that resonates with me and enjoy it? And then when I came back, when I decided, oh, it might be worth getting back on Instagram, I found that I kept that spirit in how I did things, and it was no longer about how can I find something that'll pop off when I post it on my story. It was more how can I express myself in a manner that is authentically me, and then I share that, and I don't care anymore about the numbers. I could give a fuck about the little hearts that pop up at the bottom of my story.
Authenticity
Honestly,
is the name of
I was
the
gonna
game.
say, to be completely honest, I find it a lot more entertaining when people don't fuck with what I post, because then there's just fun conversations to be had. Like, I
That's the game.
I do it for the haters, for real. Love y'all.
Do it for the haters, yo.
I love like
Plug 'em
making, because again, and this is such a like a weird way to look at it, I guess. But the fact that I'm getting people that don't fuck with the things that I'm making is only a sign that I'm doing things right. Especially given what I had talked about, like right when we were getting into this, and the whole idea that I used to be such a conformist person who would do anything to get a thumbs up from other people. The fact that I'm making things and getting shit talked for them is actually a dream come true, because that means to me that I really am doing things for the sake of myself, and I'm not making what I'm making, I'm not being creative for the sake of other people anymore. The things that I'm doing to creatively express, I'm doing purely for me. And that's evident in the disagreement that I get with people.
Hell yeah. That's a good way to live.
Hell yeah. I fucking love that, dude.
Yeah, this you should see fucking Otto's TikTok. He just kind of slings that shit out there.
Which one?
Both of them. Or no, the I would. The I would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some fucking crazy shit on there.
Yeah.
Doing it for absolutely nobody.
I have a music TikTok, and I got TikTok. I got this TikTok, 2 TikToks this summer, and I never had it before.
Right.
I have Instagram on my phone. I look at it on my computer, and it just makes me mad. I tell Jack every night when I'm calling him, I'll get on it for like 10 minutes, and I'm like,
get on Instagram. He's like,
I
hate this shit.
I just can't be on this app. Really, just like,
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I mean,
fucking hate it.
And
but it is
feel
interesting.
Like, yeah.
I started posting my music on my TikTok. It's class.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I find it really interesting that, like you mentioned, being so frustrated with, I guess, even Instagram, but just social media as a whole. It feels to be a sentiment that a lot of people are starting to share more often.
Oh, I fucking love
because
it.
I feel like
drool over it. It's fucking great. I'm on the I'm on the opposite, you know, and I'm not okay. I just said that kind of sarcastically.
These are great.
I actually like TikTok and shit because I find the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. I'll never see that person ever again in my life. I'll never see one of those, or a dude over here, dude's teeth going through his bottom teeth, and he's over here shooting fucking bullseyes from 150 yards on an elk at a fucking public range.
That's like gambling.
That's crazy.
It's the novelty.
It's novelty.
Yeah.
It's fucking addicting. That's what's addicting. But on the
right,
other side,
and that's, you know,
I
it's
guess you can have two different
that.
types of feeds, because I've engineered my feed to be absolutely fucking ridiculous. And then there's some people's feeds like I don't know, like you ever see like girls' Instagrams where they're literally like, they're like, yes, babe, like, love you, you're so cute, heart, and they just reply to every single text, and they send it back, and they're like, you too, babes.
And then you have
that
like
shit's crazy,
the dude Instagram comment section where you're getting comments from people that you forget existed because you haven't seen them in like 6 years. Or again, I think like the way that you worded that, of like the split nature of it, is really interesting, because you have some weird people, right? I'll use this. I have one of my good friends. His Instagram is like exclusively tailored to give him, I wouldn't say like the most meaningful content, but it's stuff that feels far more enriching. Like you scroll through his feed and it's all like
hardcore type stuff.
It's maybe not even it's just stuff with more meaning to it. Like it's, you know, there's like fashion tips and like style advice. And I know that sounds really corny to say, but it's got stuff like that. And then it's like room design. And I open my feed and it's like, what's it called? Like Glove the Cat, like the poorly drawn image of a cat throwing up fours. And I'm like, I'm on the slop side of Instagram. I get reels of like.
I mean, how long have you had your Instagram?
I get just
like,
straight brain rot. I get reels of dudes hurting themselves.
I got the OG Instagram. I've had Instagram since like fucking 6th grade. It's the same one.
I've been on Instagram for about 10 years now.
I've got so exactly. So like, I bet if you started
my feed has been tailored brick by brick forever.
Yeah, so it's probably just bullshit. I share the sentiment,
and like, I would be just as pissed off if I were to make a new account and try into Instagram now. Because I feel like it loses all the personalization. I do want to try that.
Because I have like a welding Instagram for like my business and stuff, and like I'll just post, reels or whatever. And like it's completely different. And I have a Facebook too. I never used Facebook ever. I was on Marketplace and I started randomly just looking at Facebook. I'm like, this is the shit.
It's a different ecosystem.
It's a shit that I'm interested in as an adult, like my own adult sphere that I have, curated only solely on what I've been interested in, what came in the last probably 2 years.
Right.
Shit that I would never have, and it's purely only that. So like, I feel like there's more people out there with that than you think.
There's a space for both. I feel like there is, a stupid, goofy charm to the absolute mind-numbing drool on your keyboard shit that you get on Instagram sometimes. But also, like, there's the parts of me that want to have a feed that does just exclusively pitch out things relating to what I'm interested in, Like, I think there's a part of me sometimes that wishes that I could scroll through reels and I get feed information about photography, and I would get, like, reels in relation to, the philosophical stuff, psychology. Like, I have the days where I do wish that I had a meaningful and impactful social media feed, but then there's also the days where I scroll through and it's, a video of a dude falling off his bike with fart.mp3 playing in the background, and I'm like, God, I fucking love this. Like, there's a time and place for both of them.
Just get 9 Instagrams. I got, like, one for the bad bitches. I got one for the construction, like I've watched a lot of guys like cut logs and shit. Oh my God. That's a good. And then I got one that's just like bodybuilding, and then I got one.
I'm trying to see if I can do this for comedic effect.
Just like
ladies and gentlemen, we are advocating for it today. Fry your dopamine receptors, please.
Fucking just put your head in an actual deep fryer, or do that.
Or MP3.
Just put your head in the oven, put that shit on 425, and bake yourself into a pizza. Like, genuinely.
Just walk into a Burger King and do a head spin inside the grease trap. Like you're breakdancing. Like you're breakdancing as a line cook.
Oh, no, you want the meta goggles, and then you want the washing machine fleshlight. It's attached to your washing machine, so you can stand there stationary for 2.5 hours. Your gawk schmuck.
Yeah, you're doing the meta full suit. I'm
calling it the full suit.
It's like
bob cleaner.
What's the thing that girls wear that's like it's like shorts, but it's like a full like onesie. It's a jumper. Yeah, you got to get the meta jumper. Got to get that joint on.
Meta jumper.
The meta jumper, yeah.
I got the meta jumper.
Here's what I'll pitch you. Here's what I'll pitch you that I also find really entertaining. Is even just the method, like the way that the conversation shifted when we started to get on the topic of social media, and the conversation itself started to feel less impactful and more just about like bullshit. I feel like that's also just really fascinating to think about, how we were on the topic of like the ethical consequences of technological evolution, and then we start talking about social media and it's like, hey, this shit is stupid. And it feels like it loses a lot of its weight. And I feel like that is the impact. I feel like that's the impact that it's having on society because of the propagation of social media. I feel like the natural importance of conversations that are had, the natural meaning assigned to social interactions, especially the ones that we have on social media websites, automatically gets dumbed down. Because I feel like we've kind of developed this system where anything that we see on social media, for the most part, we take less seriously. Because there's sort of that stigma around like Instagram Reels now being like the brain rot capital of the internet, where you go on there if you want just a straight chicken shit slop sandwich worth of like stupid content, and you could just scroll it for hours and rot your mind away. I think that it's really interesting that that's almost the effect that even talking about it had on the conversation to a degree. And that's just kind of an observation of mine. But I do find things like that really, really interesting.
Sometimes you gotta be silly. Sometimes you gotta be goofy. Sometimes you gotta be funny. This is called Funny Podcast, but I think I'm gonna change the name to just Strangers. The Strangers Podcast.
That is.
Hey, I rock with it.
It's just we're gonna find strangers. We're gonna fish them out.
You get the beauty of different perspectives and different people around the internet because everybody sees things differently. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that eventually you're gonna come across somebody who almost fundamentally disagrees with everything I've said. Like,
hell yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, because you can find that.
True. I think you can find anybody to disagree with you with
everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Everyone is allowed to have their own thoughts, their own mindset, and their own way of being.
That's individualism, bro. We're getting rid of that. We are getting rid of that. We're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of that because we're going straight to individualism. It's together love.
We're actually going to the
we're just
CCP
gonna
way.
all think the same and love each other for it.
Right. That's there has to be a balance, I think, with anything in life to that extent. You look at, there obviously needs to be more emphasis on collectivism, but I also feel like the tiniest tinge of the individual spark is what makes collectivism shine when it's done properly. Because when you have people who are, again, if you go full collectivism, if you go full, like, for the group, for the collective, for the people, if everybody's the same, no one has anything unique to contribute. I think that having that individual spark in a collective nature is what is eventually what I would argue to be the most optimal way to go about the sort of, dare I say, the structuring of society almost. Everybody with their individual differences working together as a group is what I would call the preferred outcome.
I think it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, and I think that there's been misplaced appreciation, especially...
Give us
a what?
Give us a banging closing statement. Just
give us your okay.
You got, bro.
Give us your magnum opium or whatever. We're at hour 6. Magnum opus. We're at hour 6. We're about to publish this. I'm going to drop it straight into the Artifacts Discord. You're going to be famous.
For it. Internet celebrity, here we go.
Give me your best. I think don't fuck it up.
Also,
I will. Go ahead.
You can also give us what you see as the future, because we've talked about this whole time who you are, where we are now, and now I kind of want to see what you want to do, what you personally, or what you want to see in the world. Just give us something like that.
I'll give
Bring
you
back
my
hoverboards.
Yes. Good.
Bring back hoverboards. Bring back hoverboards. Golden dipped golden carbon fiber. Minion carbon fiber golden dipped hoverboards, guys. Bring them back.
I'll give you my closing statement. I'll give you a sort of, what I'll do is I'll give you the methodology first, and I will use that to sort of segue into the closing statement. We as people, we as a collective, us as a group, we are capable of so much. Every change that people want to see in society today, everything that people want is attainable. We have to work together as a group. We have to bring our own individual strengths, our own individual talents, everything that makes us unique together as a group to make those things happen. And I think there is a lot of things that happen in modern society nowadays because of the advent of technology, the progression of social media, the ability to just connect anywhere instantly. A lot of our connections and a lot of our sort of interaction as a whole, as humans, is fundamentally diminished. We've lost a lot of our spark as a group, as a species. And we can get it back. We just need to kind of... I'm not advocating, I'm not saying anti-internet, but sometimes it's worth detoxing, it's worth taking your time, going outside and playing. Like, just go outside, kick a ball, do some shit with your friends, foster that community, have your people, have your activities, have your things that you can do that don't require any sort of technology being involved. There is no shame, no matter what age you are, whether you're, 8, 10, 12 years old, you're in your 30s, you're in your 50s. There's no harm in getting your friends together and going and playing outside. I think that we need to kind of bring back just the things that make us people, the things that let us enjoy our time, the things that let us do everything that we do. And we need to put more of an emphasis on that instead of the sort of falsified nature that comes around as the advent of social media and the heyday of technology as we compare ourselves to other people constantly. We need to remind ourselves of our own sort of value, our own beauty too. And so that leads me into my closing sort of philosophy, my closing statement. Everything you do in your day-to-day life, keep these 4 words in mind. Do it with heart. My name is Midas. That's been my time.
Amen. All right. Signing off.
That was fire, bro.